What's up, everybody? It is the Myles B show. The day is finally here. I've been so excited about this. The Gary Brackett interview is coming right up. So why delay? Let's just get to it. All right, it is that time for our special guest. We've been looking forward to this, Mr. Gary Brackett. Multiple 9-year NFL career, all with the Indianapolis Colts. Super Bowls in 06 and 09. Got to win one in 06, and now he is a leadership and business coach extraordinaire. Gary, how's it going, my friend?
Hey, I'm great, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming on the show, man. Super excited to have you.
Yeah, excited to be here, man. You know, I love Coach Nation. Obviously, we got a lot going on, a lot to talk about. So, I'm excited.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we'll get to the Colts here in a little bit. Let's start off just talking about, like, I mean, because, you know, I like to think of myself as an athlete in my better days, like high school. I peaked in high school. But, like, what was the feeling like when you heard your name called and that first time you stepped on that NFL field? Like, tell me that emotion.
Yeah, it's crazy. People still ask me, like, what's your favorite memory in the NFL? And that was it. It was my second game in my NFL career. We had just played Chicago Bears in Illinois at that stadium because their stadium was being remodeled, right? Shows you how old I am. But, yeah, we were playing home against the Seattle Seahawks. I think Seneca Wallace they had. I think Matt Hasselbeck. So I got named as a starter. So running out the tunnel, it's probably the slowest I've ever went running out the tunnel, right? Just soaking it all in. But that was like a childhood dream that I had of get my name called out the NFL tunnel. And once it happened, I was like, man, this is it right here. So it was very exciting.
That's amazing. It's funny that you say that because my next question was not Super Bowl related. What was the highlight of your career? So let's say aside from that as well, like was there a play or a moment that stood out to you?
Man, it was, so many things that I did, right, didn't show up on a stat sheet, right? So I can remember like a AFC Championship game against Tom Brady and the Patriots, and on third down, they were backed up, and I made this adjustments on defense that kind of tricked Tom Brady into thinking that we were going to blitz and then not blitz, and then we end up blitzing. He got rid of the ball, and we got the ball back, right? And then we go ahead and score in that next possession. So I think for me, I was a player who played the game from the neck up. And, I always wanted to play chess with the quarterback. And we always, hear how smart these quarterbacks are. And I think middle linebackers don't really get enough credit, right? But we have to go out there and match wits with these guys every single Sunday. And I was always, excited to get that done.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember that game very well. I was probably yelling and screaming, and at the time lived in an apartment. My neighbors probably hated me. Be honest with me. Did you hit Tom Brady just a little bit harder than anybody else on the football field?
You know what, man? I was an equal opportunity hater, so I didn't like a lot of those players. Right? So yeah, for sure. I think but Tom, of course, you want to hit him, you want to make him feel it, but man, I think all those guys I wasn't really big fans of. So, but man, he's still playing, right? How crazy is that?
Crazy. It's
insane. I've been damn near retired for 10 years, 11 years, and this dude is still playing. So shout out to him for his TB12, workout regimen, whatever he's doing. But man, yeah, he's one of the GOATs for sure.
So, okay, if it wasn't Tom Brady, who was that one guy across the field that you just you circled it on the calendar every year when you saw it?
You know what? Our divisional rivals, Jacksonville Jaguars, I think, they always were big talkers. And for a little while, it was just they would call it like a big rivalry. But in my mind, it's not a rivalry until the other team wins, right? We're brothers, right? So we whooped them, but they got us, towards that end of my career, it got really competitive against those guys. But when you look at teams that are notoriously bad, what happens is they draft very high year after year. So if you look at their team from top to bottom, they got more number one draft picks, they got more top 5 talent, and every round they get the top guys. So they got talented guys. It's just about coaching and chemistry and culture that really separates those championship teams from some of those other teams.
Absolutely. I love it. So athletes are typically some of the most superstitious people in the world. Did you have a pregame ritual that you did before every game? And if so, is it one you can even share?
Yeah, I always say, man, I wasn't smart enough to remember any of my rituals, right? And I didn't want to jinx myself on the field, like, dang, I forgot to do this. One thing I did do, like before every game, after like the anthem, I would like pray, and then I would like give 3 hits up to my mom, my dad, my brother. Obviously, I lost them during my first and second season in the NFL. Just kind of give a homage to them. But other than that, all like tying your right shoe first, then your left shoe, then back to the right, and then tie. Like, nah, I wasn't smart enough to remember that, so I just stuck to the basics.
Well, what you did obviously worked out. So it's 2006. You guys have just won the Super Bowl. You're standing on the stage with the sheriff and Bob Sanders and all those guys that Colts Nation loves to reminisce about. What did it feel like that first time you put your hands on the Lombardi?
Man, it was amazing. I mean, we've been close, lost in the AFC Championship game, and I think finally being able to get over that hump, make it to a Super Bowl, and then win it. I mean, it's something that you dream of, something that we were playing for every season, right? That's the goal. That's what's up on the board day one. So be able to like capture that moment, put my hands on the trophy. I think I had a picture somewhere. It's probably at my home where it was painted with me, like taking a picture of the trophy, holding it for the first time. So it's just amazing feeling, and one you don't take for granted. A lot of people who play this game, like some great Hall of Fame players, have never went to the playoffs, let alone been to the Super Bowl, let alone had the opportunity to win it. So you're in very elite company when you get that done, and I'm just honored to be a part of that group.
That's awesome. And I say it's probably one of the top 3 days of my life that
Yeah.
doesn't involve family, obviously. But, man, that was a lot of fun to watch as a fan. So on the football field, I think a lot of people take for granted. I mean, especially like currently the situation with Shaq Leonard, there's a lot of skeptical fans out there about the injuries and things of that nature. I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of it, but I would like to know, what does it feel like to run into another large human being at full speed 12, 15, 20 times a game?
Yeah, I mean the first year that I didn't play football and I just watched on TV, like I cringed at some of the collisions, right? And I knew that's what I did for, a number of years. So I mean it's very challenging, but I would say we trained for it though. So
Sure.
to do that now would be like insane, right? But
Right.
I actually put my body through some extreme circumstances in the off season, working out, training, taking that. I wasn't running into things, but I'm lifting insane amount of weight over and over again.
Sure.
I'm doing some pretty sick things in a workout just to prepare my body for that type of condition. So it just goes to show you, if you prepare your body for something, like I feel like our bodies are so much stronger than our minds. Sometimes our mind wants to quit and our body will keep going. So I think it's just a testament to like how guys train, how they prepare in the off season to go out there week in, week out and put themselves through that type of collisions.
Who was the hardest hitting guy that you knew, defensively or offensively? It could have been somebody lower in the head from the ball side too.
Man, Bob Sanders.
Yeah. How
I think
crazy was that?
Bob Sanders and Clint Sessions.
Clint
Uh,
Sessions, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, crazy. I mean, I would it would be friendly fire sometimes. Bob's back, right? And I was just telling him, and even Mike Doss, it was just like, hey guys, I'm going low. I'm going to tackle the ankles, the thighs, right? I'm holding them up. You not like do not hit me, right? And like I'm on your team. So definitely wanted to send those reminders out. But man, I saw him lay out multiple guys, administer multiple concussions. So he definitely brought it.
Yeah, he hit so hard he hit himself off the field half the time. But man, it was fun, especially when you guys came together in those '06 playoffs. That was so fun to watch as a fan.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it was a great time.
Absolutely, I can only imagine what it was like in that locker room. A bunch of great guys too. So you played for the Colts your entire career. What do
Mhm.
you think was the driving factors for that? Because that just doesn't happen. It doesn't matter whether it's a starter, a backup. practice squatter. You never see players play their entire career for one team. Even Peyton ended up with the Broncos, right? Which nobody ever thought would happen.
Yeah,
What led to
yeah,
you being here?
yeah. I think I was a leader. You know, I think being very selfless and being in a position where I help others succeed, I was kind of secured my destiny, right? Just because they knew how passionate I was about the game, they knew how passionate I was about winning, and that I would do whatever it takes. And what that meant a lot of times was preparing some of the younger guys to go out there and line up and be ready on Sunday. So spent a lot of time throughout the week watching film, answering questions, extra time on the field, just preparing guys because at that time we had a lot of young linebackers getting brought in and a lot of young defensive
Right.
players. Someone had to get them prepared to be ready on Sundays. And for me, it was just like it wasn't. They play bad, we play good. It's like it's a team sport. Like you're only as strong as your weakest link. So I always put the extra
Love it.
time to make sure and ensure those guys are ready and prepared when it came time of game day.
Was there ever a time you questioned whether Indianapolis was a permanent home? Did you think you were headed somewhere else at any point?
My last year after the second Super Bowl, like at that time, I mean, I was like, uh, it's crazy. I never made a Pro Bowl, but I mean, I was playing lights out that season, right?
Yeah, you were.
And I think my contract was up, and it was just like it was like perfect timing. I was still like 29, so under 30, so I wasn't like old yet or whatever the case may be. So I had interest. I mean, there were some other big deals on the table from other people, but I just think just because I knew Indy, right? My family was here in terms of at the time, my wife, my kids. But yeah, so I think a lot of that kind of led to my decision to want to stay and want to. I think a lot of players, especially if it was a good organization, and as great as the coach, Mr. Ursay, and his daughters and the family, Pete Ward, they just do such a fantastic job of treating their players like family.
That's
So
awesome.
I love the fact that I got to stay here my entire career.
Culture is so important in the workplace, and a lot of people don't realize or don't think about with pro athletes or musicians or anybody who lives a celebrity life that they are going to work every day, and those things do matter for folks like that. When did you realize it was time to move on, though, into the next chapter of your life?
Well, I didn't realize it. They did. Unfortunately, Ryan Grigson, you know what I'm saying? One of the first things they came when Peyton went down and he got released, they kind of, set off the bomb, right? So then Dallas, myself, Bob, Joseph Adai, a bunch of us kind of got released in that big day. So after that, I had a shoulder surgery
Mm-hmm.
that had took me out that season, and I had just had my second child, my little boy, and yeah, I could just remember holding him and just being in pain just because of the injury. And I was just like,
Yeah.
man, when I was young, I had this saying like, yo, I want to ride this till the wheels fall off. But then when the wheels start falling off, you just like, you know what? I think I owe it to my kids to like, you know what I'm saying, still be able to move and function as they get older. So at that point,
Yeah.
year 9, I had some opportunities, but I said, man, I had a good career. So it's a good time to call it quits.
And it sounds perfect, and totally, as a father of three myself, I totally get, the work life balance, which is impossible for at least half of the year for an NFL player, right? But still, how hard was that decision to actually hang it up? Something that, like you said earlier, you'd worked your whole life for. Your dream had been to walk out that tunnel since you were a tyke, like what was that like, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's always challenging when uh, a career, a position, or a part of you dies, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I was always fortunate to think of myself, to never think of myself as a football player. Like I played football, that was my career, and I have a lot of other skill sets. So while it was bittersweet, I mean, I still thought I was like top tier, still think I could get it done. But unfortunately, our body, right, is the ultimate deciding factor. And
True.
I would have rather have played, 1 year too short, or 1 year too long than 5 years too short,
Right.
right? So I'm glad that I had 8 surgeries. I'm definitely feel the effects of that today. But all in all, like I'm thankful, right? I still can work out. I still can exercise. Everything is somewhat limited, but but I get to push through and still enjoy life.
That's awesome. Did you have a plan for life after the NFL before or during or after that period?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I mean, when I finished with football, I went back to school, got my MBA from George Washington University. So, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Something I'm currently doing now, still.
Right.
But yeah, I think my plan was always kind of work for myself, own my own business. Just really, just to be around my kids more, be able to, support, initiatives that I want to support. So, I've
That's
always
awesome.
enjoyed that. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the hardest part about transitioning from being an NFL player to retiring?
The hardest part was Tuesdays, not getting a check, right?
Yeah.
Not getting paid those NFL checks, right? Always difficult. I think that was for
Yeah.
sure the hardest part. But nah, seriously, I think the discipline and the regimen. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're playing football, right, you have schedules and outlines and be here at this time and there by that time. So it kind of like gives you a lot of structure and order. And once that's over, I mean that's gone. And you kind of like making your own structure and order. So I had to find a way to kind of create those own guidelines and restrictions and schedule within my own framework and my own lifestyle that wasn't necessarily predicated by the team.
Fair enough. So I have to ask this question, especially given the circumstances that have occurred over the last week or so. A lot of your teammates have found their ways to front offices and sidelines, and may
Mhm.
possibly even have more. What are the chances of seeing Gary Brackett on an NFL sideline or a college sideline as a coach or coordinator?
Yeah, you crazy. Never say never, man. I often get calls and requests to coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I coach third football, grade football now.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
so I've been coaching the last 3 or 4 years. Obviously, it's not college or NFL, but I think the
Is
principle is the same. I don't think my language pattern are different. My passion for the game won't be different. None of that is different. So I don't know, man. My kids are 13, 11, and 9 and
okay.
like they're my greatest joy, right? And I would not want to give up the time that I share and spend with those guys right now. So
I
I'm
love
just not
that.
ready for that commitment. So it's kind of like sacrifice for the greater good, and for me, that's being around and being available for my kids. I think Coach Caldwell what would always say your best ability is your availability
Yeah.
and being available for my kids, being there for them, good day, bad day after school, or talk to them after a game, or just be there in a supportive role. I mean, that's what kind of drives me right now.
Absolutely. That's probably my favorite thing that you've said this whole conversation, even including Super Bowl wins. Right? That's gave me a little bit of chills there, Gary. I love that. So the kids? You're coaching third grade. The kids playing?
Yeah, yeah. So my oldest, Gabrielle, does volleyball, so she's going to
Okay.
high school next year. My
Nice.
son plays football and lacrosse, and then
Okay.
my youngest, she's in soccer and gymnastics.
Wow. So you've got the gambit. Like that's
Yeah, it's
your travel schedule.
Yeah,
uh,
it's funny, now they're kind of off right now, so it's
sure.
nice. But yeah, when it's fall and springtime, there's no time.
Yeah, I coach and do softball with my middle child, and it's demanding for such a she was
Yeah,
8 when we played last season, and it's just like wow, that's a lot for an 8-year-old.
nah,
Three
for
games
sure.
in one day once. Wow, it's crazy.
Yep.
So tell us, where are we at now? What are you doing these days, man?
Yeah, so now still doing a lot of motivational speaking, transformational speaking around town, and also a business coach. Being an entrepreneur, I just saw so many opportunities for small business owners that they didn't know, and I didn't know, and then I went out and learned it and started implementing inside of businesses to kind of help them scale and grow and get more time to kind of do what they want to do while they got to business, right? To earn more money and create more time. I help business owners get that done.
That's awesome. We're going to actually take about a minute and a half here and check out a video from GaryBrackett.com from the website. Just a little quick snippet of what you've been doing.
I believe in constantly growing and evolving. So I'm constantly going to be on this mission to change and to grow because I want to be great. And I'm chasing this person that I think I can be. And this person is great. And I'm chasing that person. Hey, this is Gary Brackett. And I just got off the phone with one of my coaching clients. And this whole notion of being resistant to change was the topic of our conversation. Some people are just content with what they got going on, content in their body, content in everything. And that's you. You don't think you need to change, you don't feel like you need to grow, get any better, then you're good. And go enjoy the rest of your life. I'm not that person. So I'm constantly going to be on this mission to change and to grow because I want to be great. And I'm chasing this person that I think I can be. And this person is great. And I'm chasing that person. I want to get as many people as possible thinking that greatness is inside of them and that champion is inside of them and he's raging to get out. So I hope this is your year and I hope you all make it. This is GB, your championship coach, and I'm signing out.
So that's awesome, man. Tell us a little bit, expand on the video a little bit. What's this all about?
Yeah, so it's really I'll walk people through this process where called the 9P framework, where we establish and we build a foundation. Oftentimes, business owners had a business plan when they started, right? They got a loan from the bank or whatever, but they probably haven't looked at it in the last however many years. So we instead of a business plan, I call it a game plan. I help them put forth a game plan so we can look at some metrics of what we want to measure. How do we separate ourselves from our competition? And then we follow up with people and get the right people in the right places, your processes, figuring out the right products. So it's essentially build their foundations, establish their key performance indicators, and then ultimately drive sales so that they're predictable and repeatable. And I think, every business owner loves that. I think there's so many things you can do now with technology and automation that once you learn it, it's really powerful inside your business.
That's awesome. So what led you from the restaurant business to this? How do you go from point A to point B there?
Yeah, I think really just realizing that so many people were in my similar situation, and I wanted to be able to help them figure out, how they could go from being a business owner to being a business builder. So I think it's a wonderful transition, and once you realize, and I always say this, like once you see these things, like you can't unsee them.
Sure, absolutely. What do you think the biggest mistake like current leaders and business owners are making? What's number one?
Number one is their game plan. I think their vision board. I think, if I was going to be inside of a studio or be inside of a auditorium and I say, all right, guys, everyone point west to me. Where do you think west is? And then, people point that way, this way, up, down, all over, right? No one, they don't have their compass on them. And if you're in a company, if you're a business owner, if you don't communicate your game plan, if you're going to ask everyone what's the vision for your organization, everyone in the organization is going to point a different way. Like what's this week's priorities? So getting everyone on the same page, rowing in the same direction, I think is really the key point in businesses that help them succeed or fail.
That's great. What would be the biggest piece of advice, obviously, aside from that, for someone who is trying to start a business to get to that level of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think it's really about like daily and consistent work. I think having some sort of a planner, having some sort of a game plan that they abide by, and just understand that hey, no one said this is going to be easy. This is a journey. So fall in love with the process and divorce yourself from the outcome. And I think if you have daily habits and rituals, it's just a signs of achievement. Eventually, you'll be successful. Like if you eat less, right, than the calories that you work out a day, eventually you're going to lose weight, right? It's just science, right? And I think same thing with business. If you keep at it and you putting together actions that matter every single day, and you become better at what you do, and you can offer value, then you're going to be able to somehow get paid for that.
It's absolutely fantastic advice. GaryBrackett.com for all of any questions or to book Gary. He did a consult for me. It was awesome, and highly recommend you check him out. So let's get to the Colts now as it is. Man, open forum. What are your thoughts on the state of the franchise and everything that's gone down? We'll just say this season, the last couple weeks especially, though.
So actually, I mean, there was high hopes coming in, right?
Right.
Hearing from training camp, it looked like Matt was the guy, right? On fire, great leader, making plays. And then week one is almost like I almost think he forgot that, this was his 20th year or 18th year. But then also they had struggles with the offensive line. They have injuries. So I think there's a lot of things, but I think one of the things, obviously, a lot of firing happened, right? The offensive coordinator, then the head coach, bringing in Jeff Saturday, quote unquote, no experience. So it's a lot of things, but I think they're 4-5-1.
Yeah, still right in the thick of it.
Right in the thick of it. They got actually a pretty good team, in terms of not necessarily record, but defense. Those guys are playing some pretty solid defense, even though Shaq Leonard, their perennial Pro Bowler, is out. But I think, offensively speaking, taking care of the football, obviously they had a lot of turnovers early on in the season that hurt them bad. So if we can simplify the game plan, take care of the football, run the football, right? This is young man named Jonathan Taylor back there, right? Probably the best in his position right now. Definitely top 2 or 3 with Derrick Henry. So I think, just going back to the basics, and I think that's what Jeff Saturday would do. Obviously, we saw the big famous fight between him and Peyton Manning, right? And he was just telling him, hey, run the ball, right? So he knows what those offensive linemen want to do. So they're just sticking with that game plan philosophy, and hopefully the defense, can keep it a low-scoring game so they can, run the ball. And then Matt, I think he still has something left in the tank, but I think putting the game on his shoulders to throw it 40, 50 times, I just don't think in this point in the career that's where he's at to do that consistently.
Yeah, I agree with everything, and I've taken a pretty hard stance against Frank on the show for the last, since the show's inception, and then back when the show was with the Alex B podcast. I'm not going to ask you to indict or agree or disagree with the rule because I don't think that's a fair question to ask you. But as a player, can you tell when a coach has lost the locker room?
So, yes, absolutely you can. It's a funny story, right? We were, it's probably kind of almost lost. So we weren't a good football team at Rutgers University, right? I won like 3 games or 4 games in like my whole 4-year career, right?
Woo.
So we're 2-0 this one season, right? We're 2-0, and we're up in Blacksburg playing Virginia Tech, right? I'm talking about Michael Vick, Lee Suggs, which they're number 1 in the country, right? This is a primetime game. So we're in the locker room. We're 2-0. They're 2-0. We're like, yo, this is it. This is our coming out party, right? So we're going crazy, right? And our coach comes in the locker room. He slams the door. He said, they want us to go out there early because they want them to do this fancy thing on live TV, and we're not going to do it. We're like, yeah, hell no. He's like, you guys ready to win? We're like, yes. And then he says, is this a must-win game? And we're like, yes. He's like, no, it's not a must-win game. We only need 6 wins to make a bowl game. You can just see the air just being let out in the room, like, I think 55-0. I think we won a game another probably year and a half after that.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I could definitely tell when a coach has lost the locker room. Obviously, I wasn't there with Frank, and I don't know what happened, if he gave one of those speeches or not. But unfortunately, in the NFL, there's only one team at the end that's going to hoist that Lombardi Trophy, right? And I played 9 years, played on some great teams, and I only did it one time. So this is extremely difficult to do, right? But I think, looking at to the trajectory, and if, Mr. Irsay thought he was going to get rid of him at the end of the season, he's like, why not do it now and then have someone to come and see with these resources that I have, how can we utilize him in a different type of way? And then it sets some of the other team members to see, hey, like, all right, cool, next season, how is this going to look?
Absolutely. Obviously, I'm sure you and Jeff are close. You guys, spent a lot of time together for 9 years of your life. What was your initial reaction? Like, because look, and I'm not saying that he didn't deserve it or shouldn't have it. I actually love the hire, but I've had a buddy get a job where I'm like, what the how did he get that? Like, what was your initial reaction when you first heard the news?
Yeah, I started looking at my phone like, did I miss a call? Like, like is the D coordinator too? Like, where are we going with this? Like, are there any other jobs open over there? Nah, I kid though. But so I was just a week prior over there with Tyler Glenn had just got inducted into the Ring of Honor. So I kind of saw everyone, and and I know the love that Mr. Irsay has for his guys, especially the Ring of Honor guys, right? They spend a little bit extra time together, but and I respect Jeff. Like, I was a union member with him and saw him. Like, I don't know, people realize a couple, 10 years ago, the CBA deal. Like, he was one of the guys that was instrumental in getting that deal done, right? So he's not afraid to make tough decisions. He's always been solid, and I mean, he was a leader from day one. Like, he didn't necessarily have a C on his chest, but he was our leader, right, in the locker room. And I mean, he coached high school football, probably. And that the thing is, like, he coached high school football. How is that the same? Like, I coached third and fourth grade football, and I promise you, I say the same things that I say to them that I would about an NFL locker room. Right. I promise you, like, when you're a coach, it doesn't change.
Maybe now, a little bit more selective of a language, but oh shit!
I am who I am, right?
Hey, that's fair. I've tried to be like that to a certain degree with my kids. I'm not cursing like a sailor or anything.
But you know what I'm saying? But yeah. So and then once I realized that he was actually in a special consultant role and actually talking to Irsay weekly after the games and watching it. And obviously at ESPN, they watch a bunch of film. In order for them to be on TV and like comment on players, and they watch game after game after game to prepare to sound intelligent, right? So I was just like, I mean, he understands like what they're going through. He's a phenomenal leader, not just like a good leader.
You can tell.
He's the guy's a leader. He's a great leader. Yeah. And I personally would put a great leader in a situation with no experience versus a guy with great experience in a role that's a terrible leader.
Absolutely. And retreads have just become too common of a thing in the NFL, and especially in the last few years for the Colts, not necessarily from a coaching standpoint, but the crazy quarterback carousel that we've had. I was personally excited about the hire. I was at this place where I'm like, okay, we could do something, or we could have a great draft pick, or anywhere in between. But like I said, I was pretty hard on Frank and on the it was his time to go. Love the man. I think he's a wonderful human, but just like me as a leader in the sales world, eventually that relationship gets stale and it's time to move on to the next phase for everybody. But one of my biggest issues with Frank, especially this season, is I just didn't feel the passion from him or from the team and the emotion. And just the fire that, I see in your eyes right now, and we're just chit-chatting on a podcast. I saw that this past Sunday against the Raiders, and I don't give a care if it's a 2-7 Raiders or the undefeated now 8-1 Eagles. There was something that I saw on the field Saturday, and I think it's Jeff's influence and Parks' influence. Tell me what you saw on Saturday.
Yeah,
Sunday. Sorry, what you saw.
On Sunday. Sunday. Man, I think everyone else hears the same things about the inexperience, right? And one thing about a team sport, that unity, like you all want to prove them wrong just as much as Jeff does,
right?
And and a lot of times when they talk about a player or quarterback or something, it's an indictment on the whole team.
Yeah.
So it's a team unifying together and playing hard. And the thing of it is, like, in the beginning of the season, there was talk of like AFC South champions, AFC like contender. So this is a roster that's not too far from being a competitive roster. So I really think by simplifying some things on offense, you could hear it without reading between the lines. You can hear Ursay say, "Oh, we simplify some things on offense. We got away from the analytic ball, and this is 4th-1, and we got a 62% chance to run." Like, you know what I'm saying? So no, we have guys at intuition. No, right? I'm not feeling right now. Yes, 80% chance we're going to win. We're punting the football. Our defense is going to win the game for us. And I think sometimes having that type of emotions, like, so I coached 3rd, 4th grade football, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's in Carmel, right? So I know people don't enjoy us folks in here. It is what it is. I love my community. Number one place to stay, right? It's beautiful up here. But I had headsets, right? And I would get called down from the booth on what to do and what I should do and what I should play. Hey, thanks for your opinion, but the answer is no. I'm going with him and I'm doing this. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, so while he's not necessarily calling offensive plays or defensive plays, he is the final say on what they call, what they go for, what they're going to do, like who goes in a certain situation. So, I mean, I love it. I mean, I've always loved his thought process. He's always been like 1,000% genuine.
How many people do you know would throw back and forth with the sheriff on the sideline, like that video you mentioned, where he's
fear.
His mind, none.
That was the only one that was documented.
You know, when I'm sure you could tell some crazy stories. Maybe we could save that for another time. But I tell you what, I was excited from the get-go, but the moment he had me is when he looked right in the camera and said, "I know how to lead men. I can lead men." And like, as a leader myself, and this obviously parlays with everything you're doing right now, like it gives you chills, right? That was when
the biggest thing he said, when he said, like, "Bro, I'm secure who I am as a man." Like,
absolutely.
Bro, those 2 lines, I know how to lead men, and I'm secure who I am as a man.
Yep.
Whoa. Like, if you're
powerful
secure and you lead men, it's just like you're like, how many, the difference between like true leaders and like people who want to be leaders and want to like they throw stones at us, but we don't flinch and we don't look. Nor do I say I'm not going to go that direction because it's going to be resistance. I'm saying that's the only direction because it's the fastest way to victory.
Absolutely.
And I'm willing to withstand whatever is that way because I feel like in my heart that's our best way to a true victory. And when you do that as a man in any role in life and in business and coaching, bro, like everyone else is like, "Coach, we're going that way." It's like, yeah, follow me. I'm in front. Who's not going to follow that man? So I think that's what is all about football. And selfishly, there's 31 other jobs, and if Jeff got that job, I feel like I'm just as qualified, to get a call from somebody, right? And we're just getting CEOs to be head coaches of teams that, with some experience. I feel like, I should be on that short list.
I feel like you should too. I mean, if Jeff continues to have this success, it really honestly changes everything. Everything.
So, you know what's crazy though? And coaches hate it because people are going to start skipping in the line.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're going to think like, I waited 15 years for this, but you're not a good enough leader, sir.
If you were good enough, you wouldn't have had to wait 15 years. It took me 2 years to get promoted at one of my jobs, and that's because I wasn't ready, right? There were other people that got promoted 3-6 months.
And in Silicon Valley and some of like the biggest corporations, Fortune 500, this happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Where a guy outside the field, outside the industry, no experience in there, but as a proven leader, has success in this areas of life, he has got handed the keys to his operation.
Yep.
And people are like, why him? He doesn't know about this. He doesn't need to know about how to build that. He needs to know how to lead men.
Right.
He needs to know how to make sound decisions.
Absolutely.
And I think because of that, I mean, I think he's going to experience a lot of success. I really do. And I really think he has the temperament to be a head coach. A lot of people do not. A lot of people don't have the temperament to be a head coach. One, they can't articulate. 2, they're not chess players, so they can't think moves ahead, right? And 3, they're not calculated enough. So I think, and people are just like rattling names off on a roster. How about that guy? How about this guy? How about that guy? 1, he doesn't want that position, right? He never said he wanted to be a head coach. 2, right? He knows that he doesn't have that altitude for it.
Right.
So I think, like Ursay said, I don't know how to make sausage.
That's up there with the Jim Mora playoffs soundbite as far as greatest Indianapolis Colts soundbites of all time.
I don't know how to make sausage. I know how to build a championship team, and I'm a testament.
You are.
I believe you. Yeah,
you are. So Monday night, the Eagles lost to the Commanders, right? And so they looked extremely beatable. Obviously, they're going to be coming in hype, right? They're not happy about that loss. I'm sure you can talk about some losses that you were whatever and that was your first loss of the season, how pissed off you were the next week. What are we looking at this Sunday against the Eagles? What are your thoughts on how this one's going to go?
Man, it's truly like any given Sunday, right? And now with the Colts, with the new blood, they're fired up. I'm excited to see because, at this point in the season, right, you can really throw records out the window.
Right.
People will say, well, they only lost one game and they lost 5. Just throw it out the window, right? When they line up, right, both of these teams have the opportunity to win. Now it's going to be about who imposes whose will. That line that Jeff said is about the team who plays the hardest and longest. That was an old Tom Moore line.
Right.
And every time Coach Dungy at the end of a meeting, at the end of a practice, hey, coaches, got anything? And Tom Moore would always say, it's all about the team who plays the hardest and longest, right? And that's but that's period what it was. And it's just like, and that's what football is all about. So this Sunday, I'm sure they're going to be inspired. I'm sure, they got momentum from last week. And they're like, hey, but it was the Oakland Raiders. It was the NFL football team they played.
Absolutely.
Right? So they're going to be fired up, man. They got a home game. The crowd's going to be electric. They love Jeff, right? So I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be good football. And they got a chance. Like Matt is still a solid quarterback.
Yeah,
but
he really is.
Just don't have him throw the ball 40, 50 times.
Especially when you have JT in the backfield.
Bro, when Phillip Rivers was here, it was like one of his best seasons.
Yeah.
But he was getting rid of the ball. He didn't have those mistakes. So I think if we get that done, man, I think there's a chance. And I think really, we're not out of playoff contention. We're not out of
division contention.
Yeah. So it's just like, hey, man, we start playing good. JT runs the ball, bro. Like, you're going to look up and be like, oh, my God. Like, this was Irsay's a genius.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be historic and crazy and probably a 30 for 30 a few years from now, right?
For sure.
So the line started out at 9.5, which I thought was ridiculous, and I really wish I'd have jumped on that. It was down to 6 the last time I checked it.
Okay.
What's the final score for Sunday, Gary?
It's going to be interesting. I will tell you they are going to score some points, right? Obviously, they got a very electrifying QB. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. So it's challenging. My only knock on Matt Ryan is like getting those third downs when it matter. But so I'm a homer. So call it what it is. 28-24. Indianapolis Colts gets the victory.
I love it.
Back to back. Yes, that's the game. That's the story I'm sticking to.
And I'm going to start a petition to change Matt Ryan's number from 2 to 7 and go with the name Michael Vick Ryan after that 39-yard run that he had on Sunday. That was crazy. He looked 20 years younger.
Hey, man, it's something about being benched, man, that just makes you like.
He had a fire. Oh, yeah, that's great. Well, Gary, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. Quickly tell folks where they can find you social media-wise, aside from GaryBrackett.com.
Yeah, Gary Brackett on all the social media channels. Obviously, DM me, message me. And if you're a business owner, if you are someone who wants to create their own digital course, those are the areas where I feel like I am great at. So definitely give me a shout. I'd love to help you, see you succeed. My motto, right, is to create more champions and less followers. And I just want to keep on continuing to create champions.
I love it. Well, you are a champion. And again, thanks for coming on the show, and wish you the best of luck. And maybe we'll do this again sometime soon.
All right, man. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Gary. All right, big thanks to Gary Brackett for coming on the show. Man, that was awesome. I hope you all enjoyed it. Leave a comment, a like, a subscribe. Remember, you can check us out on YouTube, The Myles B Show, if you're listening to this. Or if you're watching and you want to just listen to the podcast, you can subscribe and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and Pandora, The Myles B Show. Check it out. Again, thanks to my guest, Gary Brackett. Check him out, GaryBrackett.com. He was the man, and man, that was a lot of fun. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time.